So we look into Facebook, we look into Twitter, and in her case, she had about 1,200 Twitter followers. Not bad, not a bad start. She didn't have a YouTube presence. She didn't have a Google Plus presence. She had a semi-functional website, not that great. She had started a mailing list at that point. And she really didn't have any of the other things that I've mentioned here. Instagram, which is a picture-taking application. Foursquare, which is an application that allows you to check in at different locations. I checked in when I got here, of course. Bandpage, etc. So we were trying to figure out, where do we start with an artist like this? We have an artist who's really only on Twitter, and we've got a record coming up in 4 months. You know, should we build a Facebook for her first? Should we make sure she has a YouTube profile? What should we do first? So our approach to something like this is to try to leverage what she has into the next step. So rather than just trying to create her presence on every possible platform right at the start, we picked one. And we said, why don't we start with something. Let's see, oh, sorry. I'm coming to that in a second. I'll be there in just a sec. So this is her Twitter profile as of today, or as at, I guess it was a couple months ago. She's now at about 8,100 followers. When we started with this artist, she didn't really have she had a standard background. We replaced that with background relating to the promotional photos that she's using. In some cases, and with other artists, we've chosen the album graphic. And we also changed the way, or we suggested a change to the way she was communicating. Really, she was using Twitter just to talk to people, which is great. But we started mixing in messages. We also started asking her to go out and consciously look for people that she could follow. So we said, set a target for yourself. Maybe it's five artists a week, or if you're a book reader, 5 authors a week. But pick a target for yourself and meet that target. Make yourself do it. And I would add that the reason this artist has been successful to the extent that she has is because she did that. We had to insist, and she was willing to put the time and energy in to make it happen. So we went and made some changes to her Twitter page. We added information about where her website is. I often get asked, well, if you have a Twitter or you have a Facebook, do you really need a website? Absolutely, and I'll explain why in a minute. So this was the first thing that we did with this artist. I know Turntable's not available in Brazil right now, so I apologize for that. Well, actually, I don't need to apologize. They should apologize for it. But Turntable is a website where anybody can go and DJ. You basically have a little room. You create your own room, and you can invite people into the room, and you can spin music. And so we decided that because Turntable is very tightly integrated with Twitter, which was the only place she really had anything going on, that we would start here. And what's up on the screen here probably seems like a funny slide for me to put up, but this was, if you're able to read any of it, and if you're not, by the way, I think the presentation is going to be available afterwards. You can read it. But this is an example of what we do with an artist. This is an actual email to her where we're talking about how we want to roll out this particular promotion with Turntable. One of the first things that we do, and one of the things that's often forgotten by record labels or by artists, is we contact the service itself. We contact Turntable and we let them know what we're doing, that we want to run an event with a new artist. We have a promotional contact there, and our goal is that they'll talk about that. So, you know, we're based in San Francisco because a lot of the promotional outlets like Turntable, are also based in San Francisco. So we have an opportunity to build a relationship and try to get them to Turntable to mention this artist, the fact that this artist is going to have a Turntable event. So how do we set the thing up? Well, we started by, at first, when we started this, people didn't really know who she was. So we created a room. Toolshed, my company, created a room. People know who we are. And we had some people come into that room, and we invited people. We went out on Twitter, on our own Twitter feed, and looked for people who had been talking about MNDR, or people that we thought might be interested music fans, might be interested in what we're doing musically. And we invited them to come and listen to us spin music. And during that session, we started playing MNDR's music. And if anybody loved, you're able to love or hate music that you're listening to in Turntable. If anybody loved it, we made sure they knew that she was likely to be doing her own performance coming up soon. The other thing that we did is we went out on Twitter and we looked for MNDR's super fans, the fans that were really into what she was doing. And we found several of them. These are individuals who have a lot of Twitter followers. And we picked those individuals and we said, why don't you get up? MNDR is going to be DJing next week. We'd like you to be up on the turntable with her. It's a lot easier to show this than it is to explain it if you've never seen it before. But imagine imagine up here on the stage, a virtual deck, with a turntable. It sort of looks like that in Turntable. And there are 4 slots, and you can have, I think you actually can have up to 6 people. So we invited these people to be up on the decks first. We could control that. And we asked them to talk about it. That's how we got the event promoted with a new artist. And it worked. Whoops, this isn't working, however. Battery dead? I think I'm stuck. Can you go forward to the next slide? There we go. Okay, so this is the same artist that started out with no followers. She didn't have a Facebook page. So, and this was taken, I took this screenshot in January of this year, so this was about 9 months later. That's a pretty respectable result for growth on Facebook. We did some of the obvious things. We went through and, again, took the imagery that we were using for this particular campaign, made sure it matched. We often rotate these out. Maybe every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, we'll change this image for something else. We don't always leave it the same. We make sure that there's information on the page. But the biggest thing was we were starting from scratch. So in her case, we started with a Facebook ad campaign. Is there anybody in the room who's used Facebook ads? Great. So those who have, at least our experience has been that it's a very cost-effective way to reach people outside your own network. A lot of bands very successfully get to 200 or 300 or maybe 400 followers and can't get past that point. The reason they can't get past it is because those are all their friends and their friends. So when you're trying to make that next step, Facebook advertising is a great way to do it. And our approach to Facebook advertising, just check the time. Our approach to Facebook advertising is to not to focus on huge bands that sound like our band. We're not looking for Radiohead fans. We're not looking for U2 fans. We're looking for extremely small niches, small groups of people, people that are interested in only in the Dead Kennedys, or that are, we'll pick 10 or 15 different bands, and we'll use the artist. We'll say, we want you to pick your 15 favorite bands. And then we want you to pick 15 bands that you think, whose fan bases you think would enjoy you. And stay away from U2 and stay away from Radiohead. Stay away from the big ones. Because when you advertise on Facebook, you're in effect bidding against other people who are looking for that same demographic. And that's why we feel it makes sense to focus on small niches. You have people who are really interested in one thing. Maybe not a huge audience, but you've got a small audience that's interested in one thing. And it was an effective approach. We also had to create a voice for MNDR. And when I say create a voice, I mean, she was only on Twitter. Her, the inclination of some artists when they're only on one platform is to say, is there some way that I can cross-post what I do on Twitter on Facebook, for instance, or what I do on Facebook on Twitter? Is there some way to link them? Yes, there are plenty of ways to link them, but you shouldn't do it. And the reason you shouldn't do it is because these are two very distinct, different platforms, different communities, different people living in both places, expecting different things. If you take your Twitter feed with your your @ mentions and your hashtags and the other things that you use as part of Twitter and throw them into Facebook, they don't make sense. They're there. People might be able to figure out that that's actually a Twitter post, but that tells them that you're not actually there. And that's the wrong message. That's not what you want to get across. So, the website. I mentioned earlier, or I asked the question, does an artist need a website? Sure they do. But maybe not for the reason you're thinking they do. One of the biggest reasons they need a website is because the platforms that I just showed you, Facebook, Twitter, you don't own your data on those platforms. At best, you're renting it or you're using it. But what happens when one of those platforms decides to make a change to the way you're able to access your information, which is exactly what happened with Facebook last year, late last year. They changed their algorithm. And where it used to be the case that if you had a Facebook profile with a certain number of people who had liked you, and you made a post, all of those people would have the opportunity to see that post. That's changed. It's not the case anymore. They now have a thing called promoted posts, and with a promoted post, you can ensure that a large percentage of your network will see your post. But if you don't do a promoted post, your overall exposure is going to be much less. So that's just one reason why it's very important to make sure that whatever else you do on other social networks, you have a good website and you have an email collection facility. With all of the opportunity and the fun that exists around different social networks, one of the very best ways still to contact people is via email. A lot of people think it's spammy. A lot of people think people don't read email, but it still has one of the greatest effect rates of any of the social media platforms. Or I should say of any of the web platforms. So we have website. It's got basic information. It has video. We didn't actually have early video for MNDR. So we didn't focus on YouTube right away, but we got into YouTube later on once we had made this great video, which ended up going viral. Perez Hilton mentioned it, which we were really excited about. And as part of creating, I don't have a picture of MNDR's YouTube profile up here, but one of the first things we did there was create playlists. So you can create video playlists on YouTube. And you can create playlists of an artist's music, or you can create playlists from other artists' music. The important takeaway there is really that in any of these platforms, the idea is not just to not just to put your video up there and leave it. Every time we moved MNDR to a new platform, she participated directly. And it was extremely important to her success. So one of the first digital music services that we worked with was Ardio. We did that for a couple of reasons. We didn't do it initially because nobody knew who she was, so we wouldn't have gotten much in the way of promotion from a digital retailer that didn't know an artist. But we liked Ardio for a couple reasons. Number one, because MNDR got into the platform right away and she started creating playlists. We asked her to create her own playlists. We're doing this with another band right now too, a band called Mother Mother on Last Gang Records. Ardio has a very well-developed interface for artist participation. At the time, Spotify did not, so we started here. And again, because of MNDR's interest in participating directly and continuing to build playlists and actually going and spending time on the platform, this took off. Gotcha, perfect. I'm almost, next slide, thanks. So there's a number of other ones here, and I've only got 5 minutes, so I'm gonna speed up just a little bit. But the gist is, we didn't create it all at once. We went platform by platform, and we made sure the artist was along for the ride. We made sure the artist was gonna participate. And it was a very effective strategy. Next one. Can I have the next slide? This is the last one that I'll talk about. This was a remix contest that we did through a company called Indaba Music. It was extremely effective for a number of different reasons. We had a prize associated with it, so it was the first opportunity for us to tie a brand into her, into a promotion and into a network or a community. We got the stems to this particular song. We allowed users to remix them, and we gave away a pair of Soul Republic headphones. Cost $500, best $500 we spent. Lots and lots and lots of great stats. You can see we had 255,000 streams. Amazing. For a new artist. This is only 8 months after the record came out. 150 submissions and 897 email opt-ins. Let's see. Can you go to the next slide? Just want to remember where I'm at. Okay, yeah, this is basically the end of the presentation. But so I guess at this point I'd just ask questions. Does anybody have any questions about our approach or about anything really related to this? Excuse me? Okay, great. Okay, great. Do you want me to put the headphone on? Okay. Yeah, I'm all set. I'm all set at this point. Great. Thank you.